It's time again for Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.
Welcome to another session of Talking Trade. I'm Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of EXIM Bank of U.S, an international business development company. Well, we're very pleased to have on our show today Judith Pryor, the first Vice President and Vice Chair, and sits on the Board of Directors of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. So welcome, Judith, to the Talking Trade.
Thank you, Ken. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Well, great. Well, the EXIM Bank has been around for many decades, started in 1934 under President Roosevelt, and through the years it always had a prominent place in U.S. export development and international trade. Mm-hmm. But it also had some years where Congress was not so favorable towards the bank. Can you just give us a sense of what the status is of the EXIM Bank is today?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you've hit the nail on the head. We were established in 1934 by FDR during the Great Depression, part of the New Deal. So this year marks our 90th anniversary.
Wow.
90 years of doing business, and things have changed a lot since 1934.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hopefully for the better. But yes, we are the official Export Credit Association, our credit agency of the United States government. We have many sister ECAs, fellow ECAs throughout the world. Mm-hmm. When I first went to Congress for my hearing to be appointed to the board of directors, there were about 95 other export-like agencies around the world, and today there are over 120.
Wow. So
no one is not supporting their U.S. companies as they look to international markets abroad, and mm-hmm. EXIM continues to do that. We're part of the government's economic toolkit, I like to say. So we have work with our sister agencies. We provide direct loans, loan guarantees, working capital, supply chain finance guarantees, and of course export credit insurance for many small businesses around the country.
Yeah, that product is well used by many U.S. exporters.
Yes.
Probably
yes.
Is that the most popular product?
Well, to tell you the truth, we're considered sort of the bank of large exporters, right? The high dollar items, and we do quite a bit. In fact, last fiscal year, we supported over $8.5 billion in finance throughout the world. However, what most people don't realize is that 80% of our transactions are actually with U.S. small businesses.
Oh.
So we help de-risk that transaction for them. You know, if you're a first-time buyer of a U.S. product, let's say you were at a trade show in New York and you saw Ursula's new gadget or gizmo that she was selling. You said, I have to have that in my store. But you've never worked with Ursula before, and Ursula's thinking, well, I've never sold to this buyer before, and they're in London, and I'm not sure how this is going to work. How am I going to get paid? The buyer's thinking, I'm not going to pay in advance until I know that I get the product and it looks good. And so we can help de-risk that transaction for small businesses. So yes, it's probably our most popular product.
Well, that's a big economic impact, $8.5 billion.
Yeah.
Is there, how many jobs does that create, or how many exporters do you support in do you have any statistics?
I don't have any. I don't have the data of the actual number. That varies by year. Mm-hmm. The larger transactions. What's so great about the U.S. Export-Import Bank is we have no minimum and we have no maximum. So we can support as low as $500 for a policy to help a small business de-risk their transaction. And the largest transaction I've ever approved for financing was for $4.7 billion with a B. So it runs the gamut. We don't have a minimum or a maximum. Our book, when it's at full capacity, we can guarantee or lend up to $135 billion. Okay. Today, our exposure is around $34 billion. So we have plenty of room to grow.
A lot of capacity.
Yeah, and ready to get back to work.
Well, great. Well, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is the criticism, or I should say the comment, and you mentioned this earlier, that the EXIM Bank is more for the big companies, the Boeings, Boeing's bank, right? When you do these major airplane purchases or sales, I should say. But you've also mentioned very much so that it's focused on small, medium-sized enterprises, assisting them. Do you have any more success stories that you can share?
Sure. All right, you brought up Boeing, so just for a minute on that, I'm proud to support Boeing. Airbus is their main competitor.
Right.
They have 3 export credit agencies in Europe that at any time at the drop of a hat will support the sale and are aggressive about pursuing transactions for Airbus. What people don't realize, or maybe they do, this crowd certainly does, that companies like Boeing have tens of thousands of employees in the supply chain. Boeing, if you think of it, is really an amalgamator of all of the various parts and pieces that go into making an aircraft. And if you are Korean Airlines or Ethiopian Airlines and you want to place an order for 10 new Boeing aircraft and you need a $900 million loan, I don't think there's a commercial bank in the world that's going to do that without a guarantee from and support from the U.S. Export-Import Bank. So I'm very happy to support Boeing because they're our largest exporter. It represents so many jobs across the country. And at the end of the day, our mission at EXIM is to support U.S. job growth by facilitating exports. So some other examples, I pulled an example since we're talking to Wisconsinites. I pulled an example, Matthews Archery in Sparta. They're an archery and hunting supply company. Do you know them?
Yes,
you know them, Ken?
yes,
okay.
yes.
And with exports credit insurance, we can help them protect against the risk of buyer non-payment. So going back to your earlier comment, it is indeed the most frequently used of the services and products that we offer. We've supported more than $22 million in Matthews Archery's exports since 2014.
Wow.
So for
That's
a small company, small you don't always have to think of small as super small, right? SME has a different definition, but we follow the Small Business Association's definition for defining a small business. So that's one of my favorite Wisconsin stories to tell you. There are 100 more if there are 10. Bee Nutty peanut butter out of Indiana. I mean, two soccer moms, got together making specialty peanut butter, and next thing you know, there was such high demand for it, and now they're exporting all over the world with the help of EXIM. So it's been a lot of fun. One other one that I would mention, and actually it's a little bit of a pivot because this is a new product offering that we have that I'd love to share with your viewers and your listeners. It's our Make More in America program, what we call, because we're a government agency, what are we without having acronyms? So MMIA, Make More in America, is EXIM's domestic finance initiative. So for the first time, we can now support the full life cycle of an export, right? Everyone's used to buyer financing or assisting with credit insurance for the outbound export, but now we can help manufacturers build out or upgrade their facilities, their equipment, as long as a portion of what they're producing here in the United States is designated for export. So that's new for us. So, we might be 90 years old, but I like to think we are, rolling with the times a little bit.
Well, coming out with innovative new programs that fit the marketplace.
Yeah. And then leading into the example, which is a company based in Pennsylvania, but has a facility in Milwaukee, Aquatech. Aquatech.
Sure.
So they're a 30-year customer of EXIM, mostly export credit insurance, similar services, and they came to us and said, we really want to upgrade our facility, our lab equipment, and they work with in the extractives industry. So furthering the renewable mandate that we have by Congress,
Right.
energy efficiency, energy security.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the recipient of our first Make More in America loan. It was for $4.6 million to help them upgrade their facilities. They test for lithium-ion batteries efficacy. So
yeah, very much in the EV world.
Right.
Yeah. Well, very good, very good. Well, early on in my career, I walked the halls of 911 Vermont Street, which is the address of EXIM Bank. And I worked for telecommunications companies, and our competitors were Canadian, German, Japanese at the time, and
Right.
now the Chinese, right?
Right.
And with all those, you mentioned all the export credit agencies that support our competitors.
Right.
And now, especially with China, with their Belt and Road Initiative that's been on for a number of years here. I think it's coming up on 11 or 12.
Yeah.
How can the U.S. compete? Because many of these export credit agencies offer low interest, concessionary financing, extended terms, 20-year terms. How can the U.S. compete against these other these tactics?
So a couple of angles on that, if I could, Ken. First, EXIM, along with many of our European friendly sister agent ECAs, we're members of the OECD.
Okay.
Right, and we try to play by the same rules. So it's a gentleman's agreement, the arrangement. It's called the arrangement. But it provides guidelines so that we're not undercutting each other in the international marketplace. Now, China, of course, is not a member of the OECD.
Right.
But in my opinion, we need to lead by example in order to encourage countries who are not members to sort of play by the same rules. So the OECD has recently gone through a modernization. So you talk about longer extended terms. Well, if you are building a solar farm or a wind turbine manufacturer and you're exporting, we can provide longer tenors, right, up to 22 years if it's in the renewable space. Other things like that, right? To me, that's the best example is if it's clean, if it's green, certain sectors, energy storage, energy efficiency, renewable, let's lean in and provide longer term limits for those repayment terms, right? That's one example. Another I would suggest is, as you know, we're a small, independent federal agency. Congress has set what's called our charter, which is basically the governing document by which we operate. And in our most recent reauthorization in 2019, they added a section to our charter that's called what we call internally the China and Transformational Exports Program. So they said, we're putting this in here because we want EXIM to help advance the U.S.'s comparative leadership on the world stage. So it's not a race to the bottom with China. It never can be, right? We're never going to win that battle.
Correct.
But if we can offer extended terms, they've even granted us authority, permission, if you will, to operate outside of the OECD arrangement in order to provide a level playing field for U.S. exporters when they're faced with unfair competition from the People's Republic of China-backed financing. So those two things together, the OECD really took a hard, long look at this and has made it more favorable for those exporting. And then, in addition, our Congress has really tackled this, and it's in 10 key sectors, everything from renewables to water sanitation to biotech, financial tech, quantum computing, space and satellites. So it kind of covers the gamut of technologies, clean energy, and really is designed to help advance our comparative leadership in the world.
Well, it sounds like we have the tools to actually compete where years ago we didn't have those tools.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. We still have a number of competing mandates because, our Congress likes to balance one with the other.
Right.
So, but we found a way to move forward. We've adopted some new policies that have helped us become more competitive, helped us support some of the Biden-Harris initiatives, including PGI, which is an infrastructure program. We've done a number of projects that would fall under that category, and as well as clean energy. And I think we're really focused here. It doesn't mean that we're not looking at all of the other sectors, because we're open, we're agnostic. If you have a project and you're an exporter and you need our assistance and you have a good credit and you qualify, we're going to look at that credit. But it does mean that in some of these newer sectors, like renewables, why not lean in a little bit more, talk with U.S. exporters about facilitating those exports and helping them take advantage of a double-digit growth market.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Judith, we could talk all day long on this, but we're out of time. We like to limit it for our audience's sake. So thank you very much for joining us on Talking Trade.
My pleasure.
It was a very interesting conversation. And I'm Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of EM Wasylik Associates. Thank you for joining us on this session of Talking Trade. Tune in for the next episode.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.